Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. You'll notice the ES right now holding near highs, significant reversal off the previous session's lows. Price dropped just below the 8-period PEMA here and closed the day on highs, new all-time highs. And now we're getting a pullback to the midpoint of the previous session's range. That midpoint is going to be very important today. Can price continue to hold above that zone? That's 44.54 half, or do we fail to hold above that area? If we close below this midpoint today or close below the 8 period, that could be indicative of a little bit more of a pullback to come. However, right now this market remains very strong. It continues to see a bullish trending price action. The PEMA trigger zone remains very bullish. And one thing to keep in mind, we do have Fed Chair Powell speaking later on today around the lunchtime hour, 12:30 p.m. Central Time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. That could give us a little bit of a range-bound market heading into that event, followed by perhaps a little bit of volatility to close the day. We'll see how that plays out. But overall, this market still remains strong. If there's any failure to hold above that midpoint by the end of the day, that could be indicative of a bit more of a pullback to come. If we take a look at the NQ, this one had a more significant rejection in the previous session. It also had a more significant rally from the lows. After the initial drop, that thing took out multiple weak lows here, then returned back up to close very strong. You could see the failed new low here with a great strong signal. Now the midpoint just above current price here. That midpoint is going to be very important. 15.028 is the mid. Can price stay above that zone? One thing we talk about again is, whenever you get a major rejection, you ideally want to see it out of a range or at an edge. Right now this rejection kind of inside this developing 18-day trading range, and that could be an indication of further chop to come. So while this midpoint, you'd like to see it hold here and perhaps we can see an upside break, this market just hasn't seen an ability to break out and go lately. And again, we have Fed Chair Powell later on today. That could become a little bit of a catalyst here. But one thing to keep in mind is if we do close below this level, that midpoint today, that could challenge a bit of the more downside before upside is seen. So again, this market remains very range bound. The directional conviction remains to the upside. But even if we were to see some sort of pullback, even a pullback say as deep as 14.4, 14.2, that could still provide a tremendous buying opportunity for a continuation higher later on in the fall. If we take a look here at crude oil right now showing a little bit of a hold off the lower end of the range. 66s continues to be support here for this one. You can see 66 here coming across the edge. Anytime prices drop below 66s, it has not closed below that level by the end of the day, instead choosing to bounce. We still have lower highs though, lower highs on every one of these bounces. Price right now trying to hold the midpoint of the previous session's range. A bit of a rejection that occurred there. That midpoint will be important, but again, this is the key zone down here. Previous month's low, we still haven't tested it. That's the key range low. Do we need to come down here and reject some of those prices before we bounce? We will see. But lower highs right now and attempting to stay above 66s. 66s will continue to be the key short-term level to watch. Taking a look lastly at gold futures right now, just barely above the flat line for gold, up to 1791s here. A tremendous move higher. A continuation back toward 1800 as we talked about before, nearly getting there here today. 97.60 already today. We talked about the fact that this was a strong reaction off the lows and we could see a return back to the origination point for that day and also the origination point of the sell-off from that Friday. And that could still take us a little bit higher until about 1806s. So we have between 1800 and 1810 that could be still seen ahead. And after this move, it'll be very interesting. Can price then form a higher low or stay back above that 1765, 1760 zone, right? Here's that 1760 that comes across. Can it come over here, form a higher low, and start working its way back to 1835 to 1840? that could create a range here before it attempts higher. So right now 1760 to 1765, very important potential support here. Any pullback to that zone, ideally bulls will defend for a continuation toward 1835s. Alright, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.